At A-Train Bets, we have educational videos and we have live streams. The live streams are where we're taking those educational videos and playing a bunch of bets. But sometimes they're a little bit hard to follow. And so in today's video, we're going to take a few plays and we're going to show you the details of the analysis behind them. Stay tuned. Welcome to Data Driven Sports Betting. I'm A-Train Bets and I use my brain to make bets. And today we are going to go through a few plays that we have in the market right now that we're going to take a little bit more time analyzing what they are. They're not too off the beaten path. They're pretty typical kinds of analysis that you're going to see, but there's a little bit something interesting in each one of them. So let's get after it. So first one we're going to look at today, it is Major League Baseball, San Francisco Giants and Philadelphia Phillies. We're going to look at the first 5 innings, over or under 4. And the target book here is MyBookie. So if you can play at MyBookie, this is one that we're analyzing. And I just took I already did my live stream this morning. So we took all the plays of the books I can actually play at. So I just opened it up to everything and said, okay, let's find some interesting analysis. What I want to talk about in this one, and we're going to have a video that might be out by the time you see this, around how we do market movements. But you can see there's a white line here. That means this market has moved in the last 10 minutes to this number from over here. So they had a earlier line over here, kind of with even further out. Now they're moving to the right here, right? So the darker green line here is with more than the last 30 minutes, and the lighter green line is between 10 and 30 minutes. Now that's configurable, so you have to know kind of what we're looking at any given time. Typically, I'll either use a 10 and 30 or a 5 and 20, depending on how fast lines are moving at the time. But regardless, we'll cover that in a separate video. In this case, though, we see MyBookie's the only one in this market that's moving fast. Now, what we'll do sometimes is react to a fast-moving book and call them the source of truth because they seem to be acting with the most recent information. But here's a situation where we wouldn't want to do that, because if you look at it, we have a lot of market consolidation here, and the market's pretty sleepy right now. There's not a lot happening. There's some movement that's happening. You can see these dark dashes are where the opening lines were. But this market doesn't have a ton going on, and it's pretty well aligned. Like, some of these books are a little bit off, but like they have higher holds or whatever. But you see some really good alignment with our 2 sharpest books, Pinnacle and Bet Online, and then even some other books are following in line with that. So we say this market's pretty static. MyBookie's moving, but what's happening here? MyBookie is moving to the right. They're getting closer to everybody. And so they realize, we're off. We should be getting closer to everybody else. So this is a situation where, like, you can tell which direction MyBookie is going. You can probably see that they're probably going to continue that way to get alignment with the rest of the market. So they're finally realizing, we messed up. So I would be playing this as quickly as I could for the reason of seeing that MyBookie's off. They've acknowledged it and they're coming towards everybody else. And it's an under. So one of the core things, we talk about this a lot on the live stream, we know what the public side is. So the public are the people that are not using the data, not using the odds. The public side, they typically want things to happen. They like the overs. They like the favorites. They'll typically overbet spread favorites and overbet dog money lines, because they also like to bet a little to win a lot. So you just kind of keep these in your mind. So they always lean to over totals. They always lean to the favorites, generally without other considerations. So those are things to keep in mind. And just this nature of a casual bettor wants to see things happen versus not happen. So that influences wanting to see scores and all that. In this case, we have an under. So we like that as a sharp bettor. We like the line movement of MyBookie openly admitting to us. I mean, if we're talking about looking at a data story, this one, you just immediately zero in on the line movement. And you're like, I don't really care about the likelihood of winning. I don't really care about the holds are all about the same. Like, none of that stuff really makes a big difference. And you're just kind of saying, well, if I believe that MyBookie is likely to continue in this direction, why wouldn't I play them where they are right now? Right? Take that minus 104 on the under and take it to town. So this one, very straightforward read, but it's one I wanted to bring up because this is a case where the line movement makes me double down to say, yes, I definitely want to be playing at MyBookie, because they even are just telling us, they're telling us that their current lines are probably wrong. And they're kind of in this progression to move towards where the other lines in the market were. Okay, cool. So next one. This one is a Japanese League soccer match, right? And this one is one that I wanted to bring up because this is the kind of soft, kind of thin market that we don't have much going on. You can even look and see, like, these are the alternate lines here on the Asian lines, not much going on. And so, like, don't have a ton of sharp books. I mean, it's Japanese soccer. Like, there's not a ton of action in the US and all of that. So you got to kind of ask yourself, okay, well, what are we going to see here? So what we see here is a couple things. We see a little bit of recent line movement from Pinnacle. So Pinnacles are one sharp book in this market. They have the lowest hold, and they're generally known as, internationally especially, pretty sharp at what they do, especially on non-player props, right? So we're already saying, okay, well, we believe Pinnacle a lot of the time. What we want to key off of, even if it's a thin market, we can pretty well bet on Pinnacle. But it gets better than that. As you see, Pinnacle's been adjusting their line. Now, they've been moving a little bit into this area, but it's not been a ton. They're just kind of fine-tuning it, it seems. A 15 width, 30.37 hold, that's pretty confident. And Pinnacle is one where the holds definitely tell us that they're more or less confident on certain lines. So when we see lower hold percentages at Pinnacle, that's something that we really like. We like when Pinnacle says, hey, we have a low hold. That means you can trust them that much more on their read. Okay, so we have that. Then we see Bovada, right? And I mean, Cool Bet is moving some, but it's not super recently. And we love that more recent line movement from Pinnacle. But Bovada is just kind of hanging out there. There's no line movement at all. They're still, whatever they hung their original lines at. We don't know exactly when those lines were hung, but we know that they're exactly where they were when they hung them. They haven't moved at all. We see a 8-point arbitrage with Pinnacle, which is huge. So you could make $8 guaranteed on a $100 bet. That's huge. At $100, absolutely, that's interesting. You also see the dynamic of having Pinnacle at plus money on the over, Bovada at bigger plus money on the under. So when we see those arbitrages, we know that there's money to be made in this market. We just got to pick who's right or wrong. Well, we also know that Bovada is a much more public book than Pinnacle. And people are going to tend to play the overs, right, on the public side action at a public book. I mean, this is one where I'm like, thin market or not, man. Like, this one, neon sign, please bet me under 2 at Bovada at plus 108. Come on. It doesn't get better than this, right? 7% on our worst case vig odds. Like, there's not a big difference in the worst case because it's right at 100 mark. But my goodness, man. If you don't look at this play and be like, I am backing up the truck and taking whatever I can at Bovada on this one, then you need to work harder at understanding what these things are saying. You see the arbitrage just highlighting it. Oh, there's got to be value in this market. You see Pinnacle with a low hold. Every single thing points to Bovada. Play this under 2 at plus 108, right? Play it. Japanese soccer. I don't know dick about Japanese soccer, but I know I'm playing this. I know based on the data and what the data story is telling me, I'm looking at this like one of those cartoon animals going with the eyeballs. That's how I see this, right? That is how you see this. So man, I love everything about this. The only thing I don't love is that Pinnacle is kind of closing towards where Bovada is, but they got a long way to go to be in that range, right? So doesn't concern me at all because they are clearly fine-tuning their market. They've moved very slowly here over the last 30 plus minutes. So absolutely playing this all day long. Give it to me at Bovada, whatever I can play. This is why I got limited at Bovada. Stop playing there because you see plays like this and you're like, yeah baby, give it to me. All right, so that was that one. All right, finally, Texas Rangers Oakland Athletics. So here's a player prop, right? We've got a player prop. Max Scherman hits under. Now, here's a situation where we have a harder call to make, right? There's nothing that's going to tell us anything in alternate markets. It's a player prop, so it's pretty loose anyway. Like the market efficiencies on a player prop are going to be somewhat poor at best, right? And so like this is a hits over or under. What we're seeing here is with BetOnline, they're hanging what are lazy lines here at minus 114 on both sides. They haven't moved them at all. We don't know if we can trust that or not. Now, we know BetOnline's pretty good at the player props overall. And what do we have here? we have a whole bunch of like, this is like the Mount Everest of limiting individuals. You got BetMGM, ESPN, Hard Rock, DraftKings. You don't have anybody like FanDuel even who even give a little bit of a shake. A couple Canby books. Come on. So you're looking at the most public square action there is. And they're heavily, they're favoring, what is it? The over, theme of the day, right? They're favoring the over where all the public's betting. And we're looking at this and we're like, well, we'll take Bet Online's read on something like this any day of the week. I'd almost play it blind. Knowing that there's any sharp-ish books out there that have more advantageous numbers. Now, Caesars isn't helping anything because they're fairly good, but they're also super greedy. And so I think they appear as a sharper book than others. I'm not as keen on this line at Caesars, and Fliff is just insane. 11%. Give me a break. But the Bet Online here, could you make this play? Yes. Would I make this play if it was reversed and was the over? Hell no. So there's that. Would I make this play at DraftKings, where I absolutely adore playing unders, in the face of a bunch of public action who has swung that market where we have one sharp book that seems lazy? Do we want to play it? This is a tough call, right? This is a tough call. I played it. And I'll tell you, I played it because I love the unders at DraftKings so much. And when I see all of these numbers, it doesn't scare me. If I think of it, I've got public money or a public book. This could be one book as far as I'm concerned. They're all donkeys. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to say DraftKings v Bet Online. Do I see value here? I see 2.5% value here. I have 2.5% margin of error on this. Do I think it's necessarily that good? No. But do I think it's good enough to play? Yeah. So that's a judgment call. And that's a lot of historical information that's not on the screen that's coming in to influence my decision on this. I'm always thumbing the scale. I'm always pushing a little bit on the under. Always give me an under. And I'm more inclined to play it. If it seems like a coin flip and I'm going to the under, I'm going to take it. If it seems like a coin flip, it's going to the over, I'm going to pass. Those are the kinds of things that I think help me be more successful, because you avoid some of these plays that the market is just always going to be a little bit skewed to that public side because they want more of the public's money. So the over is going to be a little bit overstated net. And when we see some evidence, even weak evidence, that Bet Online here could be right, even with their lazy lines, reasonable hold, reasonable width, I made the play. On this one. Not going to go nuts on this one. This is not like this one we had. No way. But will I value bet this? Yes. And this is the kind of thing when we're making so many plays, when you read something like this and you understand what you're doing, it's not about just this one play. This play might win or lose. It doesn't really matter. But if I make this pattern part of my betting process, and I could be making 5 of these a day, 10 of these a day, 20 of these a day, depending on what the market is, depending on what the read is, we're doing it all over and over and over again. The good part of that is that we can evaluate our closing line value. We can see if that bears fruit. If we have these judgment calls that we're like, yeah, I think we have an edge here, it's better to bet it with a small amount. In some cases, when you think you have edge. When you think you don't have edge, don't bet it. Don't be, unless you want to gather some data, which I've been known to do on my live streams. Generally speaking, though, if you don't bet it, you're not going to gather as much information as if you do bet it. So in some cases, if you have a lean, bet $1. Bet $1 and see how you do on those dollar bets. You can do it that way. You can, in A-Train Station, you can edit notes and things like that. So you can just add, and we'll tag what our strategy is. So we can go back and evaluate it just with that strategy. So those are the kinds of things that you can be doing to help improve. Because that's the thing you always have to be thinking about. Do I like this bet or not as a bet? And then, do I like this better not as an opportunity to learn more and to get better at what I'm doing? Sometimes I'll make the play just because I'm like, I want to see what happens here, and I want to gather some data on this kind of strategy to determine whether or not this is a play I really want to make in the long run. You can't do that with one bet. You have to do that over and over again. But this is the kind of thing where I've had so much success with unders at DraftKings. Like, well, yeah, let's do that. It doesn't always have to be super complicated and super like esoteric in your head, but it's thinking like this. This is the thing. Like, don't worry about these individual plays. The whole point of this video, the whole point of all of my content is to teach you how to think about this stuff in a way that helps you be critical and in the moment make the right decision. And you're never going to be 100% at it, but you can get better and better at it. And that to me is really the whole point of why we do it the way we do it, and why you're constantly looking and trying new things, looking at markets, seeing what's happening, and incorporating new pieces of information into that data story that can help you decide what it is that you want to do in a particular betting scenario. So we've covered a few things today. We've looked at a few plays. Hopefully this helps connect some of that theory that you'll see in the other videos to the craziness that you see on the live stream where we're making a lot of jokes or whatever. And I just did a couple of plays that got worked up. But the fact is that this is how we do it when it comes to using our brain to make bets. We use our brain and we use the data stories, and we try to make good, thoughtful, rational decisions about the bets we choose to make. And so with that, that's all we have for today. So for now, this train is leaving the station. Until next time, save the units for the bros and do your betting like the pros. Thanks, everybody.